explore more of the world, engage with others, and embrace global cultures.
That's perfect.
Cool.
All right, welcome to today's Explorers, a series dedicated to sharing the inspiring stories and varying perspectives of those who have chosen to seek out life-changing adventure. On the line, I've got Jared. Jared, where are you in the world?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, in the United States of America.
Nice to have you on.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's jump straight in. When did you start your interest in exploration?
Yeah, I thinking about this. It's a great question because I was like, when did I? And I was thinking back to when I was younger, reading Calvin and Hobbes. I don't know if you know that cartoon comic strip
Mm-hmm.
by Bill Watterson. And Calvin has this amazing adventure like mindset, and he's his imagination all the time. And some of his adventures are imagined, like Spaceman Spiff on some other planet, and then others are real, like him and his imaginary pet tiger going on walks through the woods and riding his wagon down the hill and exploring the woods and the snow. And I think that really captured my imagination for sure. And then, after that, reading books and tales and, all kinds of things, Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, the idea of going out into the world and experiencing these things and these adventures. And then I also we grew up going camping and going to state parks and national parks whenever we could. And my grandparents lived on a chunk of land, but in a very rural part of the country in Missouri. And we would go just explore the woods for a whole day at a time and find all kinds of amazing things. And so there's definitely that. And then I think I mentioned too is my grandparents had National Geographics, and so I would, whenever we were there back in the day, it was either watch one of the two movies they had, or look at the National Geographics, or go explore the woods. And so so much of my childhood was spent just looking at those. And so now, like I used to have a subscription, but that kind of thing, looking at these just different parts of the world and learning about them, reading about them, seeing all these amazing images. Definitely, there was a time in my life where I was like, oh, I'm going to be a National Geographic photojournalist. I'm going to go just on all these adventures. So I think that's, where that interest started and developed as I grew. But yeah.
That's awesome. Maybe you could dive into your background then before you started getting into exploration.
Yeah. So like I said, I kind of spent most of my younger life being exposed to those things and kind of thinking like, oh, maybe I could do stuff like that someday. And I kind of mentioned, camping and hiking and all that growing up. And then I think getting into adult life, I'll say in high school, I went on a backpacking trip into Wyoming with some friends. One of my friends' dads had always done that, and he organized this trip for us, and we went with guides into Wyoming. It was a 5-day trek, kind of backpacking trip, and I had never done anything like that. And so that was like a whole new world for me. Like, put everything on your back, let's go. I mean, we even just, it was pretty rugged. We just had the tarp and pole kind of tent, and where it was open to the outside on the ground, and kind of just had the whole adventure. It was in Medicine Bow National Forest in Wyoming, and they jokingly call it Mosquito Bowl National Forest sometime. And I remember there was just mosquitoes everywhere. We were there, and I think end of June, beginning of July, and but even that didn't dissuade me from just loving it and enjoying it. And so that kind of like opened my brain up to that aspect of adventure. But then I think, I went through college trying to get as much of that as I could backpack. I went to college in Arkansas in the States, which is another great place for the outdoors and exploring. And, I did that as much as I could. And another part of that too in college was being a part of the international club and meeting people from all these other places in the world with all kinds of amazing stories. And, they grew up in a place that looked very different from what I knew, and hearing about that, learning about that, and then being together and being in community together, and having these friendships. There's people who from that group that I haven't really talked to in years, but I know I could just shoot a message and be like, hey, how you doing? Or, what are you up to, or whatever. So all those things kind of, primed, and I experienced it a little bit. And then, you get into adult life and got married, had kids, and put things on hold, have to make money and a living and a job and all that. And I think that's something that excites me about this Fjallraven trip and the polar expedition, is that for me personally, in some ways, it's kind of a return or an opportunity to do these things, or do a thing that I always dreamed or wanted to do. And I hadn't really given up on, but I just kind of like backburnered so much that it was like I wasn't really trying to do that or thinking about doing that. And then, yeah, I'm rambling, but I don't know, that's a little bit of background, or up until this point, maybe.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
A follow-up question to the trip in Wyoming: was it a very bonding experience with your fellow travelers? Because I feel like in those instances, it becomes like that, because you're got a task that you've got to accomplish, and
definitely
build those bonds.
Yeah, so I'm in that time, was Kansas City. And so we had to drive across the Great Plains of the States. And, it's depending on where you're going and where you're starting, it's maybe 9-10 hour drive of just flat ground. And we were stuck in a Ford excursion together. There was, I think 6 or 7 of us. And we were already friends, but that trip definitely solidified a bond that we had. And, for most of us, it was also our first time trekking like that, backpacking. And I think that also, so going through that experience together, but then also going through experience for the first time together is like another level of bonding too. And so, those were some of my closest friends at that time. And again, I know I could just message them and catch up, if we wanted to, or if I ran across them out and about, it would be such a big thing. But definitely bonding and community in that. And it's a great question. Yeah,
that's awesome. And then the community, you said it was during college, right? It was like an international community.
Yeah.
Did so it feel like United Nations, or?
It's just called an international club. So it was like foreign exchange students for the school. And we just, I think part of the program of them coming to the school, they tried to have a kind of a gathering point for those international students. And but anyone was welcome to join. So people always tease me, like, but you're not international. Why were you in the international club? It's like, well, they want people from here too. We're international in a sense. And so just to meet, there's, people from Germany and Uzbekistan and Korea and China, places in Africa, and it was, and all kinds. So it was just neat to have this place where, English was the common language. People spoke their own languages and had their own experiences and perspectives. And we would go on just outings together, or trips. I remember we went to like a Japanese steakhouse all together one time, and me and another American guy that were in the club, we were trying to use the chopsticks. And one of the guys I think he was from Korea, he was like laughing at us. He's like, "There's a fork, use a fork." Because he was using a fork. But it was just a neat experience to bond and to have community and go on adventures together. And one of the guys from the group, he was from Uzbekistan. We would go out and go backpacking together, and or just go on like an excursion through the day to like a river, go fishing, and just spend time. It was great. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you suddenly mentioned Fjallraven. I wonder if you could give the backstory of how this expedition you're preparing for dropped on your lap, and how you heard about it, how you applied for it, all
Yeah,
that.
almost literally dropped in my lap in a way. So I've known of the company. I mean, they're pretty big, I think, in places outside the States, and then in parts in the States they're known. But I can't remember how, but I had heard of them, and I really like their what they're about, their way they do business, and the way they care for the environment and all that. And so I kind of made it a point over, so many years to get jackets from them that are kind of like my go-to jackets. I have one right here behind me on the chair. But,
Nice.
uh, and I haven't like got all their stuff, but I appreciated how they do business and what they're about, and always kind of had an eye on it. And then one night back in, October of last year, I guess, was doing the evening scroll, sitting with my wife, and, kids were in bed, and I don't know, I was on Facebook or social media and something, and I came across an ad for Fjallraven Polar, and it's this kind of challenge they do every year. They take 20 people on an expedition to this Arctic, the Swedish Arctic, Lapland, northern Sweden, and do a dog sled expedition. And the whole idea is that anyone can be an Arctic explorer, and like you don't have to have mountaineering experience and all these things, like you can, like me, and get off your couch and you can do this thing, and it's going to take work and it's going to be hard, but kind of just the idea that outdoors and the world is for everyone, and you can just go out and enjoy it and do it. And this is kind of an extreme or extraordinary way of that. But so I saw that ad, and I'd never heard of this. It's something they've done for a couple decades, I think. I'd never heard of it, though, even though I'd known the company. I kind of turned to my wife. I was like, I'm going to apply for this. I would love to do that. And it was like a pipe dream. It was like, there's no way that that's going to happen, but I appreciate what they're doing. I would love to do it. I like the company. So I'm at least going to give it my best and apply and try to tell my story. And so what they do is they put these challenges out on social media, and you kind of have to respond to them. And if you respond to all three, then you're kind of able to be considered by the jury they have to be selected. And so it's not like a random selection. It's not a lottery. It's a purposeful selection. And so I guess I just told my story well enough, and was authentic enough about who I was and why I wanted to do it and why it mattered to me that they selected me. So me and 19 others out of like 30,000 people, worldwide who applied were selected. And so I leave this coming Saturday, actually. This time next week, I'll be behind a dog sled in northern Sweden, which is just, I'm still kind of not sure that that's actually happening, but it is. So, right now, right before we hopped on, we have a WhatsApp group chat going with all the participants from all around the world, and we've just been talking about it and meeting these people in a way already. We've had some team calls, some video calls, training. But yeah, so
That's amazing. So out of, yeah, you said 35,000. That must have been an amazing feeling to get the okay. And how did that come? Like just a message and an email? Or
no, they did so they kind of have an announcement for Polar, and then each week they release the next challenge. And then after that final challenge, there was like a month's time or a few weeks, I think, where they kind of review everything. And then they have a Instagram live. This all happens on Instagram. They have an Instagram live where they announce the winner. So me and my wife had sat down here in my office to watch it, and I was just like, it'd be neat to see, who gets selected, how does it happen. It's a neat live video on location, and so we were watching it together. And here is like 9 a.m. I think over there is afternoon, and I was kind of starting my workday at the same time, and my wife and my son were next to me and had it going, and half watching, and then my name was like the third announced, and it just took me off guard so much. I remember like looking at my wife and saying, am I dreaming? Like, did this really just happen? Like, am I actually seeing my face on the screen? And did he say my name? Like, it was so surreal that I was like, there's what? Like, no way. Like, am I really dreaming? So it was amazing. And I couldn't, I gave it my all, and I really stood behind what I said and what I applied for, but I didn't imagine that I would get to this point with it. So,
That's amazing. Yeah, what a feeling. Um, so, I mean, this is a random question, but what have
yeah.
you packed for your trip? Like, what do you have to bring, or do they provide a lot of the stuff?
Well, the amazing thing is because Fjallraven is they're kind of an outdoor company. A big part of this is that they provide everything you need. Basically, they told us all you really need to bring is the clothes you travel here in, and like your toothbrush, your
Oh,
toiletries.
nice.
So they provide everything else, and a chunk of it we get to keep. So I'll be kind of fully equipped for this winter outdoor expedition kind of adventure after this. And I don't keep the sled dogs or the sled or some other sort of things, but most of it I'll have, which is another amazing thing. It's equipping me in a way that otherwise never would have been equipped, which is pretty crazy. But leading up to leaving for the trip on Saturday, I haven't packed anything yet. I had a coworker was like, who she plans her outfits, on her itinerary. She's like, you have it packed. But I'm going to take, like a GoPro, and I have a great point and shoot of Fuji that I love that I'm going to take too, try to capture some on my own. Another great thing is they have a whole media team that captures the event, because it is kind of marketing for them in a way.
Yeah.
But they have a whole media team that captures everything, and they say, you'll have access to all of this, to share as you want to and use how you need to after the words too. So that's great. They want us to be able to focus on the expedition and enjoying it and being with the team and bonding with the team when we do. So
Amazing. And how many days is the event?
The actual expedition part is 4 nights, 5 days, 4 nights, kind of. But I'll leave here the 29th. We have a couple days. The team is pretty cool. Like I said, we've been in WhatsApp. We kind of conspired to get there a couple days early, and we're going to spend some time in Stockholm. We'll get to bond. That's not something that Fjallraven organized. We just all wanted to do it. And so
Yeah.
when they asked us when do we want to arrive, we all said, oh, at least this day. And so me and a few other guys are going to be in a hostel together in Stockholm. And we're all like, we're going to do like a sauna visit and an ice bath, or jump in the ice cold water together and visit a bakery and try to experience Stockholm and the culture while we're there and get to know each other. And then we'll have like a day of training with the Fjallraven team, and then we'll go on an expedition. So it's all kinds of crazy experiences about to happen.
Wow, yeah. And that's really cool. Yeah, you're planning to get together before. That's again another bonding experience with a group of people that's going to be stuck in your mind for a while. That's really cool. Well, let's step away from the event for a little bit, and where have you kind of explored outside of the US, I guess?
Outside of the US. So in college I went to Australia, to Sydney, Australia, and at the time it was for a mission trip, and we got to do this thing at the time there, and I don't know if they still do it, but I think it was called sports games or something like that, and we ran a sport camp for children and got to like teach them soccer, teach them how to play soccer, which I picked up in college as well because of the international club, pick up soccer games, and these guys were just running circles around me. It helped me get pretty good pretty fast. But so got to teach that to kids there. And then we also had like 4 or 5 days to we went to the Blue Mountains and out near Sydney, and did some other day excursions, and spent time in downtown Sydney and kind of did all that. Went to the Opera House, which was amazing. Did lots of exploring there. And then also my wife and I, a few years ago, her best friend lives in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and she was marrying somebody from Cape Town. So we made a point to go, and my wife was in the wedding, but we went with one of our other friends and her husband, and the 4 of us together, we went to Cape Town, and we stayed, we made a point to not be in like the prime tourist area. We went to a park called Kalk Bay, and some other parts in kind of the southern and southeast part of the city, and we really tried to experience more local life, and that was just an amazing experience to be there. We at the time, so this was 2019. They were experiencing load shedding because it was summertime there, and so there was rotating blackouts. And I mean, you want to start to experience what it's like in other places and the culture. That was an experience, and
Oh, wow.
to live the life that these people here in that area were having to live, and to be alongside them in that, go to a place to eat dinner, and they're like, well, we're about to hit our time slot for load shedding, so we're not going to have power from this time to this time, and we might be able to serve you before that, but if we can't, then you're still welcome to stay or whatever. So to experience all that, and then we went to Table Mountain and did some other things that the place is known for, and experience those things. So just trying to capture the culture in all those angles, and then in our last day there, we our Airbnb at the place we were at was up and wasn't available, so we had to stay at a hotel at the V&A waterfront, which is this like really touristy, really well known. It's a really beautiful spot, but it's definitely touristy. And it was actually kind of shielded from the load shedding, so we were in the hotel that evening, eating in the kind of the on-site dining there, and knowing that load shedding is happening, but they didn't have to worry about it because there's this generator. And it was just like, it was this weird, like, cultural shock kind of experience that after we'd spent almost a week out and, with load shedding, and you turn the corner and there's like, these shanty towns, and then there's this wealth there, and like just experiencing all those parts of that part of the world and those cultures. And then to be in this like very shielded part, it was very, I don't know, it was illuminating for us, and it highlighted to us how thankful we were, how we had spent the first part of that week, and but also still thankful to get to have the means to be able to experience that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so those are kind of the two main things for me in my life so far, of outside the States.
Amazing. What's your top next destinations after Sweden, I guess?
Yeah. So something else Fjallraven does is they do what they call classics. It's every year they have locations kind of around the world where they do these multi-day treks. And my wife, I didn't know about those until this polar thing too. But my wife and I have already talked about, we've always kind of wanted to go to Patagonia. And last year they started, Fjallraven started doing these classics in Patagonia and Chile. So we're hoping next year to be able to get in on that, and to go just on a multi-day backpacking trip down there. I'd love to do that. I also have this crazy idea in my head now that I'm going to visit all 7 continents. And so I've got North America, obviously, Africa, Australia, and Europe, and I will have gotten Europe after this. So really, I just got to get Asia, South America, and then maybe Antarctica somehow. I don't know after this. And so, but it'd be amazing for me personally just to be able to say I did that, and to experience all those different parts of the world. And my wife and I have always wanted to go to Japan, so we're looking at right now for our 15-year anniversary here in a couple of years to maybe go visit Japan. We have some friends that live there right now that we're in contact with, that we're like, yeah, whenever you come, just let us know. We'll show you what we can.
Yeah,
So,
my wife and I've been to Japan. It's amazing.
Yeah, what part did you go to?
Mainly around Tokyo.
Okay.
We had friends there. So it was a brief trip, but we were there during the cherry blossoms. So it was just
like basically
amazing.
right now, and yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
that's cool. Yeah, and Patagonia is on my list as well. Obviously, a lot of listeners and viewers of this channel are into overlanding. Have you considered like doing overlanding for some of these destinations that you?
I would
explore?
love to. I think I mentioned in the questions that my wife and I, back in 2014, I had a Toyota Tundra, 2003 Toyota Tundra that was just it was destined for that kind of adventure, and I loved that truck. And we had been thinking we're gonna do a kind of a camping road trip up to Banff, and from where I'm at, Kansas City, you're going to cover all kinds of things. It's that's a long trek in a lot of ways, and so we were super excited about it. But then, shortly after that, we also found out we were expecting that the due date was the same week we had planned on being in Banff, and priorities in life, we're like, okay, well, I guess we're not going to get to do that trip. We'll do it someday. But yeah, I had that truck, and I always kind of wanted to do that. I did some local kind of to state parks and excursions of camping with that truck, and I loved it. But that was the thought with that at the time of, this is the guy I had bought it from. I bought it used. He would go on like hunting trips and kind of similar like overlanding camping trips in the truck, and it was ready. It was just fit for that. So, but yeah, that's an aspect that I see people that do that, and I'm like, that's cool. I would love to be able to do that, or maybe someday I can, or whatever. But I've got 3 kids now and a job. I have a work from home job, or really it's kind of a work from anywhere. And there's every so often, if I let my mind wander, I'm like, we probably could do that or make that lifestyle work. We're actually looking at going to the Grand Canyon maybe this summer. And so we have a Honda Odyssey minivan that is not an overlanding thing, but it's the idea is there. But we talked about, we could, because I work from home, and the kids could miss school for a few days or a week. So when could we go to the Grand Canyon, or what else could we do? So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's not necessarily the vehicle that you have, or it is the vehicle that you have that can provide you that opportunity to do any trip. So it doesn't matter whether it's 4x4 or anything like that, which a lot of people get stuck on, but that's really cool. What if you could pick 5 pieces of equipment that you would take on your travels, what would be those?
Yeah, I have a backpack I bought for the trip we went on to South Africa, and I think I don't even remember the brand name. I don't remember the size. I don't remember whatever, but I just know that it works really well, and it's been on all kinds of adventures with me at this point. I call it, if we're going to the zoo, or if we're going to, some international adventure, I call it my dad pack. And so it goes with me now. It's going to go with me to Sweden, and it's not flashy or trendy, but it works and gets the job done. It has some like anti-theft features too, I think, but it's a good travel pack, reliable in a lot of ways. My wife and I, when we went to South Africa, we packed in backpacks and like a personal carry, and that's for it was like 9 or 10 days trip. And I love to travel light. I don't want to have a bunch of stuff. So that backpack, man, 5 items. I have it's silly. It's an old headlamp that I love. That it's again, it's been with me on all kinds of adventures, backpacking, trekking, just normal trips, that I kind of take with me everywhere. I guess I won't take it to Sweden because they're going to provide us one that'll work well. But it's still like an old battery power. It's not even like LED like all the new ones. It's like bulb battery powered. And I don't know. I just love it. It's maybe not practical in some ways. What else? I feel like I have to really think about that. I think this is one of the questions you had provided where I was like, I don't know. That's a good question.
Camera equipment?
I was about to say, actually, I have a Fuji X100F that, it's not the newest and greatest. I think that's from like 2018 or something, but it works and it gets the job done. I am taking that to Sweden with me. And what I love about it is, it's easy with photography to get caught up in raw photos or editing or, just to not be so in the moment with capturing. And what I love about that camera is it allows you to be in the moment. In some ways it's point and shoot. It's a fixed lens, so you don't have to worry about lenses. which is limiting in a way, but also for me, like as a creative too, like I know that limits enable you sometimes to do even more, and they help focus you. So that camera I love. I've captured so many amazing photos with it that I love personally, that I love to share with people, and I'm proud of. So I'm excited with this Sweden trip really to take that and to use that and take it to the Arctic and keep the batteries close so they stay warm, and really be able to capture well with that. So that camera for sure, it's been all kinds of adventures and captured so many images for me already. But
That's awesome.
yeah, that's 3 things.
Yeah, 2 more.
Yeah, 2 more. I don't know. I have actually, I am going to take this. This is it's like a leather folio with like field notes. And then this, I have two writing utensils. I'm kind of a nerd for this kind of stuff, but there's a Road Ring, mechanical pencil, and then a Parker 51 fountain pen. And those are, I love writing with those. There's something, about that tactile experience and physically writing, in our digital age. I'm taking those with me to Sweden. I think those go with me too. So this whole setup, being able to write and capture and reflect, sometimes things that
That's awesome.
in my day to day I don't always do. I might take notes for a project or whatever in a digital way, but then somehow when you're traveling or you're out on an adventure, it becomes a much more practical, or much more. There's something about it to write and to capture your notes and your thoughts in that way. So.
Yeah, no, I totally, yeah. It's been a while since I've sit down and like journaled something, but yeah, when you do look, or you find that piece of something that you wrote down at a later date, you think, oh yeah, I'm so glad I wrote that, just because it brings back all the memories.
I actually, that backpacking trip to Wyoming, that first one I ever did, I took notes. I kind of journaled through that whole trip.
Oh, nice.
Traveling and then also on the trek and everything. And, I've looked back on those notes and it's very like, wow, like I can remember and I can feel, and you kind of captured those moments in that way. So
that's cool. Yeah. We'll let you off with just 4.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll dive into the more reflective questions.
Yeah.
What inspires you to explore?
Yeah, I love that question. I think, I mean, kind of what I wrote here was really helpful. But knowing that there's people and places out there in creation that I can learn about. So like I said, growing up looking at those National Geographics, and as a kid being like, oh, there's a country like that, and that's what the people there look like and live like, and that's interesting, but just knowing that there's those experiences out there that I could go find and experience, and that doing that is going to grow me and expose me in a way that I could never have sitting behind a screen or staying comfortable, like the only way to change and to grow in those ways is to go have that experience and to do that thing. And to go to that place or to meet that person or to see that site or whatever, you can only get a slight taste of that with the media and with the screen, but you have to go be present in those and experience in them to really change in that specific way. I think that's what really inspires me. And I think, and I think in my Fjallraven application, I don't know if you saw, but a big part of it for me is thinking about my children, and I want them to see that and know that, and like Daddy is going to go experience that and see that, and that to see me do that, for them to know that they can and should maybe and could do the same thing maybe someday, or do their own version of it or whatever, just to go explore and learn and have those experiences,
Yeah, for sure. How do you engage with others?
Yeah. It's in our world, it's so easy not to engage with others, and I think it's because we get comfortable, because we get safe. So I think that the simple answer to that question is to get uncomfortable and to get unsafe in a safe way, maybe, but, to get outside of that comfort zone. And I think one big way we do that is to just let yourself make yourself maybe even be genuinely curious about those around you and the world around you. And, kind of whether that's the person next to you at the coffee shop, maybe they have a cool sticker and you can be like, oh, that's a cool sticker. Tell me about that. To be really interested in what it means to them or whatever. Or if it's the person that you run across in the airport on some travel thing or in some amazing destination, whatever. I think to be curious about the people around you and the world around you. And just to be ready with open ears and an open mind, to be empathetic too. I think those things start to widen our perspective and open our mind in ways, again, that you're not going to get any other way. So, yeah.
And it gets easier to engage with other people when you do explore. I feel like when you do step out the door and you go for that walk, and I say hi to everyone that walks by me.
Yeah.
Being in England, it's kind of the courteous thing to do, but I feel like, it's a lot easier to feel that confidence to engage with other people once you're exploring. And like you are with this Fjallraven, like all those people that you're going to have this shared experience with, you're going to be engaging with because it's interesting and because you went out an adventure.
Yeah, I'm meeting those people on the team from all over the world, and then also meeting the Fjallraven people who, they do this all the time, or, in some ways it's their job or it's their livelihood or whatever, because they've invested in it. I'm so excited to learn from them and hear from them too. But then also just people we meet along the way. Yeah, I think, you're right on there.
Why is it important that we embrace global cultures?
I love that question. Again, because this Fjallraven expedition and what it is, that's a huge part of why I'm doing it again for my kids and for me personally. Is like it is important that we embrace global culture, that we have this awareness, because we start to learn what other people's lives are like, and you can look at history and see when people become insulated and inward facing, we start to have problems and we don't have the awareness that we need to have in the world to be able to get along and to live together and to love each other, even to have an affinity for one another. We really start to get negative side effects when we don't have an awareness of global culture and embrace global culture. And again, I think of it as, this human condition where we're all very different in a lot of ways, but we're all also have this shared condition where we're broken people, we're fallen people, we're people in need of love and need of interaction. And, like this polar team, for example, we're from all kinds of countries, all kinds of experiences, but we have this very shared humanity of we want to be loved, we want to have friends, we want to have experiences, we want to be able to live in the world, and I think when we start to only think from our perspective and our experience and our worldview, that's when we run into problems. And the way, like we were saying earlier, the way to do that is engage with others, get out there and widen that view and experience other people's perspectives and have empathy in that. So I could go on about that for a long time because I feel very strongly about it, which is why I love this. I love getting to connect with you and talk about it. But
no, that's awesome. What has been the most meaningful moment for you in your travels?
Oh man, let's see. I think recently, last September, October, me and my wife, we took our kids to Colorado, and the whole point was like, I've never seen the aspen trees in the fall, and I want to go see that, and I want my kids to see that and experience that. So we went and we timed it just right. They were bright yellow, and there was yellow trees everywhere, and it was amazing. And we went on a hike where we were walking through these aspen groves, and I know that my children and us shooting photos with that Fuji, and my children were just in awe, and they were just really enjoying it and commenting on it. And it's been a core memory for them now. I think that's as a dad, that's very meaningful for me, just to like get them out to experience this, to have that be a memory that shapes who they are, so that appreciation for nature and for exploring and just to getting out in the world, and having this experience, like I was saying, that you wouldn't have otherwise. So there's that. And then I think this moment where I found out I was on the Fjallraven polar team, of like, it was just so surreal to me, but to know, like I said earlier, I applied on these words I said, these videos I made, and these responses to the challenges. They said, why is it important to get out in nature? How do you get out in nature? All that kind of stuff. And to know that what I said made an impact on somebody, and that for me personally, to think through those challenges and to understand, what do I believe and know about these things, and how am I going to carry myself and operate in this world based on those things. And now I get to go back it up with this trip, and I get to be a part of it, and I get to like live those words I said. And then that's going to shape me and transform me in a way, again, that I couldn't have otherwise. And so I'm super excited about that as well. I mean, there's more I could go into about, experiencing other people's cultures and getting to know these people around the world. But yeah, those are the two that came to mind first, I think, for now, where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to tweak one of my questions slightly,
Okay.
but how do you hope that exploration or this expedition will change you?
Yeah. So the act of going out into the Arctic, where it's going to be extremely cold, it's a whole nother thing, the winter camping and dog sledding and all that. So it's a whole new experience, kind of like what I was saying before about that first backpacking trip I ever had. This polar expedition, I think it's going to stretch me in ways that, I'll know I can do that. And it's a thing that I've never done before. And then also, it's such an international experience for me. Some people, they go on business trips all the time. They go to some other country and they meet all these people. As an American, it's really easy to not have that experience, to be insulated from that. And I'm very excited to get to have that opportunity to meet these people from all over the world, to be in another country. So I think those things will change me, and I don't know exactly how yet, but I'm excited to see what's the Jared on the other side like, and how does that change me? And I think, like I've said already, like it will widen my horizons. It'll open my mind to a lot of things I didn't know or experience before. And yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Change.
Yeah, I started learning Swedish for this trip just for the heck of it, not because I need to exactly. I probably won't really use it, but I've been using Duolingo and learning Swedish. I'm excited after this trip. Hopefully, I can connect with somebody that I can actually a native Swedish speaker who we can keep in contact with and help each other in language. They can help me learn Swedish. I can help them maybe level up with English in some ways. But the crazy thing is, in this whole experience, is you have to apply in English. And English is kind of the uniting language for everybody. It's been very convicting for me that everybody else can speak English, but they also have their first language and maybe their second or even third language. And I'm like, I know English and I can maybe listen to Spanish enough to track what's happening. So it's been cool to challenge myself to try to learn Swedish and to be challenged by these other people who are multilingual and really speak English amazingly well. And it's not even their first language, So
that's really cool. Coming back to your home, how do you kind of challenge yourself to explore locally?
Yeah. Well, we do love going to local parks And then, like in Missouri here in the state, they have really great state parks, and there's something called the Missouri Department of Conservation. So they have these set aside lands, and then usually they have kind of a information center on those lands where it kind of tells you about the local area and all that. So we love to take advantage of those, take the kids to those. My wife and I were actually talking recently that we got out of the habit of doing that, and we're gonna make it a point to get back into that. Also, just going to new places, new parts of town that we haven't been in. We recently found out about a bookshop that was like across the city in a part of town that we really wouldn't find ourselves in normally. We went to that bookshop and met the people that own it and talked to them for a bit and connected with them on Instagram. I'm an art director and designer. Turns out the husband of this couple that owns it, he's also an art director and designer, and he knew somebody else I knew. So it was really neat to make that connection and to hear about their story. And, they're doing a really great thing, which is cool. So yeah, just to get out and, I run. So I make it a point to run outside. I don't like to run on the treadmill. I want to go outside, maybe be out in nature. Like you said, if I pass somebody, there's a guy that I don't know, but we see each other on our runs all the time and always just kind of waves like, oh, it's that guy. I know that he lives somewhere near here, but yeah, just, even that to see him. Yeah. So that's a few ways.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Explore More has a mantra, which is explore more the world, engage with others, and embrace global cultures, things that we've touched on. Yeah. But what does that mean to you when you hear those words?
Yeah, I thinking about that, we had these questions and I was kind of thinking about them beforehand, and I tried to type this out in a specific way. So you kind of have three phrases there: explore more of the world, engage with others, and then embrace global cultures. So I was trying to like paraphrase or say it in my own words. And so I have: get outside of your perspective and worldview, look around you with empathy and seek understanding, and then enjoy and appreciate and tend to this amazing world we're all a part of. That's kind of what it means to me. And I think, hopefully what I've been sharing reinforces those things, but that's how I think about, this world. We're all a part of it. We're all in it. Let's take care of it as best we can, please. Let's also enjoy it together, alongside one another. Let's do that together. Be intentional about enjoying it, whatever that means. If it's nature, it's outdoors, or it's a culture or in a city or in a place, whatever it is, let's enjoy it and tend to it and appreciate it together. Yeah.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about life-changing adventure?
Yeah, I love this question because I had to really wrestle through that. Applying for the Fjallraven Polar, because one of their things was, how do you encourage others to get out and enjoy nature? And it's like, I don't know, how do I do that? And to think through, it's really tempting to look at other, the social media world we have is look at people like climbing mountains or, traveling the world or whatever, and being like, well, I can't do that. I got a job and I got a family and I got a house or whatever. But I had to think through that for myself a lot and realize, like, you can start small. You can do small things. And I kind of talked about this ordinary versus extraordinary. And you can do ordinary things purposefully. And those things can adjust your trajectory ever so slightly, or they can widen your worldview ever so slightly. So I'd say, if you want to seek life-changing adventure, just start with small ways. Go to a new place, go to a different restaurant. Maybe it's a cultural restaurant. Maybe it's like ethnic or something. And talk to the people when you go there. There's this Thai place that I love to go to that I love just talking to the people there that are, they're Thai. They're like, they're from the place, and that's why they have the restaurant, because they make the food. It's their thing. And just to talk to them, meet them, and hear about their life or their day or whatever. So small ways. You don't have to get a plane ticket. You don't have to have an overland vehicle. You don't have to whatever to start to seek that life-changing adventure. So ordinary small ways, but then also have an extraordinary way in mind. Have a big dream or a big extraordinary thing that you want to do or try to do or to strive after, And for a long time, I had that. And then for a long time, I didn't. And then Polar reignited that in me. Oh, this is an extraordinary thing that I can try to do. And it's going to, that process of trying to do it is going to change me. And then I just was fortunate enough to achieve that extraordinary thing. Oh, sorry, hold on. I got an alarm going off. I had that to tell me to stop working. All right. But this extraordinary thing that I can I get to be a part of now, that is going to change. Again, it's going to change me in ways I can't. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been looking for it, and if I hadn't been ready to be like, I want to do that. I want to try that. If I'd just been like, it's, I don't think I could ever do that, and I didn't actually try, So, yeah, have that in mind. Have something in mind that you would love to do, and be ready to go for it when you can.
That's awesome. Great advice. Awesome. Well, it's been really great talking to you. Very inspiring. I'm excited for your upcoming trip.
Yeah.
How can people follow your adventures? Especially if, I don't know if you're going to be posting stories or things like that as you're on the expedition. But...
I'm going to try. I'm on Instagram, Jared, Jared M. Toleen, Tohlen. It looks like Tolan. We say Toleen, but that's kind of the only place I'm at right now is Instagram in that way. But yeah, I love connecting with people there. There's been so many great connections I've had on Instagram and people I've met, community and all that. So yeah, find me on there. Let's talk. Let's chat. I want to hear your perspective, hear where you're at and whatever. So that's how we got in contact too. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back on post expedition too.
I would love to. That would be awesome.
So we'll have another episode.
Cool.
But yeah, really great to meet you and really awesome to have our chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, Charles.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the show. If you want to share feedback, please hit the comments below or head over to exploremore.com/feedback for more information. If you want to see more interviews and other content, then please hit the subscribe button. Cheers.